Okay. Um, let's see. Welcome back to the live stream. I reacted to Casual Geographic and Tier Zoo a couple days ago. Go check that out after this. Uh, I want to start doing some edits of those videos as well. Put them out on YouTube. Um, let's see. So today we'll be watching the Fat Electrician's most recent video. Yeah, I've watched Fat Electrician before. I think he's a really good historian. I love hearing his history facts. Um, so yeah. Let's get into this starting now.
I don't cover non-Americans very often, but when I do, you know it's something absolutely crazy.
That is true. He does not tend to focus on foreign people. He has. Uh, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, he focused on. I believe he focused on the Finnish guy who like kind of overdosed on on the pills and had a wild couple of weeks. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's definitely covered these kinds of guys before, just not very frequently. He tends to focus on American history, war history especially. Also, watching this on YouTube, so I tried to put an ad blocker or two in to see if that would do anything, and so far, I mean, it didn't load with an ad, so hopefully, but if it does, just know that that's a thing.
Nazi-occupied France made his way over to Great Britain, where he was trained by the British SOE, also known as the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. After completing his training, he
Hmm.
was then parachuted back into Nazi-occupied France, where he was tasked with training French resistance fighters in how to be saboteurs and carrying out guerrilla warfare, as well as
Okay.
carrying out massive sabotage missions himself before being captured by the Nazis, tortured, sentenced to death, and somehow escaping before he would get rescued and then jump back into France and do it all over again. And we're going to get into
Huh.
it.
Interesting.
A word from our sponsor.
Delete me. Why'd you give me a shotgun? It kicks too hard.
So yeah, I'm going to play the ad. So, occupied France, 1939. You get Dunkirk evacuation. Um, so yeah. So this is French slash British history. Oh yeah, I think he also did one on a Spanish guy who duped the Nazis into believing he was sympathetic to them. That's another one that's not American.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. Just keep firing it a lot. Preferably in slow motion. Hey, did it jiggle?
Did what jiggle?
When you fell from heaven.
What?
Here's the deal, super simple, straightforward business model. You give them money, they turn around and make sure the data brokers on the internet aren't selling your
Right.
personal information. What does that even mean? Okay, here's the entire internet and every free service on the planet inside of a nutshell. Okay, there's a saying, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yep.
What that means is pretty much anything on the internet that you use, that's a service, whether that be Google, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of it. Okay, it's all an app. So one of two things is happening. They're either going to feed you ads, and that's how that company makes money, since
And then the ads also track your search history, yada yada, so that they make sure that those ads and sponsors and so on are the most likely to get your attention, get clicks, and therefore circular thing. The more revenue they generate, the more the company, the advertiser generates, the more they can run ads, the more they can pay Google, the more ads get shown, the more money they make. It's a circular thing. So even though like this isn't like Google's directly profiting off of the success of the ads, the success of the ads is encouraging more advertisement and therefore more money in Google's pockets.
Their service is free, or they're going to collect your personal information, then turn around and sell it to data brokers on
Yep.
the internet, and then they're going to turn around and sell it to whoever buys it. And next thing you know, you're getting 17,000
Right.
robocalls every single day. And that's where Delete Me comes in.
True.
Look through all the major data brokers and find the ones that are selling your personal information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf, and then they are legally obligated to comply. And then they'll continue to monitor these data brokers, and if they get your information again, Delete Me will submit an opt-out request again. Basically, you're paying Delete Me to get rid of all the downsides of all of the free stuff on the internet, which I
Right.
think is absolutely worth it. If you want to check them out, I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
Yeah, go check it out.
All right, our story begins in Paris, France in 1923 when Robert Rochefoucauld was born. He is one of 10 children. And unlike pretty much every other
Keep in mind that was like the norm for the time. Just because there were 10 children born, like it's not like they were with modern medicine. So just because there were 10 children born, it's very likely that multiple children would die in infancy or childhood, early childhood at that. So yeah, you kind of had to have multiple kids like that.
World War II war hero I've talked about on this
2 or 3 just won't cut it.
channel, he did not grow up poor in poverty during the Great Depression.
You messed with his eyesight, right? No.
And that is because the last name La Rochefoucauld is quite literally French nobility dating back over 1,000 years. This guy grew up in a mansion right next to the Eiffel Tower and spent his summer times going off to grandma's house. And when I say grandma's house, what I really mean is grandma.
Okay, yeah, this family certainly was not poor.
Castle that had 30 bedrooms.
Haha.
Great question. He took the family's private luxury train.
Yeah, this guy was not hurting for cash. And yeah, I feel like the Great Depression did affect the rich because it was just so bad that even giant companies with wealthy CEOs and shareholders struggled. But yeah, when you come from French nobility like that, yeah, you're probably not going to hurt as much as the wealthy businessman. And that's the thing, like Britain, like yes, they have wealthy individuals, but if they're not nobility, they're still part of the peasants, so to speak, because they can still never properly transition social status. At the end of the day, they're not nobility. They don't get the privileges of nobility and all that. So, yeah, that's definitely a perk. And of course, at this time, France no longer has a noble class, probably with certain economic protections backing them from the government. But yeah, this guy was certainly not hurting for cash or anything. So, and he probably would never.
Homie did not have a normal life, okay? He was going to fancy private schools, had everything served to him on a silver platter, literally learned 3 languages by the time he was 18. That being said, we do need to understand the culture of the broader society that he grew up in. While he individually may have been living in a life of luxury, the rest of France was still rebuilding its country after World War I. During World War I,
Yeah. And that's another thing. France got absolutely decimated in World War One. France was like the home front. Like Germany, because Germany pushed very far, very quickly, but due to that quick push, they got tired very quickly as well. And so they had to hunker down, and that gave time for France to come in and make it a stalemate. And that's why World War One is so infamous for being a stalemate. I'm not even sure how much of Germany really suffered like military damage from World War One. Of course, economically it suffers, and that's what gives rise to Hitler and all that. But um, like infrastructure wise, I don't think Germany got off too bad. And of course, air raids weren't really a thing yet, so Britain, being an island nation, got off pretty unscathed. I think France really did get the most of the damage, and yeah, you figure out its closest. I think I know the advance. I believe the early advance made it 50 or so miles out of Paris. Like if they just held out for a little longer, kept up the march, kept up the advance, Paris would have fell within weeks, and World War II could have totally been averted. In fact, World War One would probably just be a footnote in history.
Approximately 20% of its male population between the ages of 18 and 50. Literally think of 5 men you know, and then imagine if one of them died, and then extrapolate that out through the entire country you live in. This obviously has enormous ramifications for the entire country and culture, and leads to quite a bit of animosity towards Germany. Because
Right.
in the Rochefoucauld household, they were not allowed to have any products that were made in Germany, and despite the fact that he had learned 3 languages, he was not allowed to learn German because, as his mother said, he was not allowed to practice such an indelicate tongue.
I wonder if that goes for the other Germanic languages like Dutch. I mean, English probably not. So, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there because now English, of course, doesn't sound much like the other Germanic languages. So it's not going. So even if she is referring to German by its raw sound, English doesn't sound like German, if that makes sense. It has its vowel structures and all completely different. Some sounds don't even exist in English that exist in German.
On top of that, his father served in World War I and was injured and had to use a cane for the rest of his life.
Right.
So there was a lot of animosity towards Germany in the
That's another thing, the absolute devastation to the troops, to the even to the citizens in World War One. And of course the citizens didn't have it. I don't think the citizens really had it as bad because it was largely a stalemate. So the civilian suffering was a lot more localized than in World War II, where you had a lot of advancement in either direction, depending on the period. It was also much more. It was also much more global in scale. Um, the colonies in World War One obviously got involved to some degree, but I don't think to the degree as World War Two.
French culture as well as in his household specifically. And that animosity got cranked up to about 1,000 when he was 16 years old and
Yeah.
Germany invaded France. When Germany invaded France, Paris was considered an open city, which basically meant we don't want you to destroy the entire city. There's a lot of history there, there's a lot of people there, so we're just not going to defend it. You can roll in, occupy, seize that territory, and we're not going to put up much of a fight. Which is exactly what happened. And within days of Germany occupying Paris, they started rounding up people they thought could potentially become an issue. And one of the people that came to mind was Robert's dad, who was a World War I veteran and
Yeah.
French nobleman that was obviously loyal to France. So they threw him in prison. Because of this, Robert, his mother, and his siblings all fled to Grandma's castle.
I mean, again, not much in the way of nobility anymore in France. I mean, France went through several Republican kingdom eras. Like after the French Revolution ultimately failed its first attempt, that was the First Republic gone, replaced by Napoleon. At some point, uh, then they returned the monarchy, I believe, and battled through several republics up till present day. But yeah.
While there, he began listening to the radio where Charles de Gaulle was speaking. Charles de Gaulle was a general in the French military that, after France fell, fled to the UK, and he was basically declared
Charles de Gaulle will be the next French, I'd say, president, because I think he was basically a dictator. He had like a lifelong term and all that, to my understanding. So yeah, not a particularly good guy.
the leader of Free France and was going on the radio every day encouraging the French to fight and advocating for France to fight back and reclaim their home. And being a 16-year-old teenager who had a ton of pride in his home country of France and grew up in this
Right?
family of nobility with all these
Yeah.
famous great men did incredible things for the country.
I would not be surprised if Charles de Gaulle takes that away from him, but to each his own, I guess. Like I said, I don't believe Charles de Gaulle ultimately was like this bastion of freedom or anything like how he's seems to have been depicted in early World War II at least. Uh, Again, my research isn't too great on Charles de Gaulle, but my understanding is he's not really that noble of a person, let's say.
Country, growing up in a society that already didn't really like Germany, not liking Germany himself, and having them roll in and imprison his father, naturally he ate that shit up. And it gets
Yeah.
even worse when the situation in Paris stabilizes, so him and his mom and his siblings go back home and find out that Nazis have occupied their house. Upon their arrival, the Germans agree to let them live in the house, but they're still gonna live in the house too. So now he is quite literally a 16-year-old who does not like Nazis that is being forced to be a roommate with a bunch of Nazis.
Right. Yeah. Not the best thing.
From the ages of 16 to 19, he is living at home.
To be fair, in that movie, there's a twist to the Nazis guy. Not here to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but yeah, there's a twist to go. You could go watch the movie.
Finishing up high school, starting to go to college, and he is being a roommate with the Nazis the entire time.
Right.
He absolutely hates it. His mother has to get him to control his temper multiple times. Now, during this 3-year time period,
Fair enough.
militarily going on in France. I mean, there's Nazi soldiers.
You know, fair enough to have a loose temper around Nazis. Also, kind of fair enough on the mother because, they're not trying to get killed here, so you have to be very careful around these people. Very dangerous to get on their bad side.
All over the place, but for the most part, they're just like blending into society, and the Nazis are trying to, not be the bad guys, so they're actually being halfway polite to a lot of people. The soldiers are, ordered to give up their seats on trains and buses to elderly women and citizens, and a lot of people are adapting to
Okay.
the lifestyle of the German.
Now, of course, this is a subversive tactic. They are trying to uh, make themselves as better people than they actually are. Now, a lot of conscripted soldiers were not diehard Nazis, but like, the Waffen SS were. But yeah, definitely going to conflate just regular German soldiers with Nazis and all that. And yeah, they are definitely trying to make themselves look better. This probably also wouldn't help future relations between France and Germany, so that's another thing to consider.
Germans are just occupying us. But Robert never adapts. He's a rebellious teenager. He keeps listening to Charles de Gaulle on the radio, and he feels a deep dishonor. He feels like he's letting down his country and his
Right.
family legacy because all of the family members that came before him all went off and they fought for France, and he's a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that can't do anything about it because nobody else is fighting. And then one day, the mailman that delivers mail.
Also, he's at least until 17 or 18 too young to do anything about it. He has to wait and for that to happen. But unlike American kids during World War One or World War Two, he had a little more time on his hands. Again, France was occupied in 39, whereas the US didn't get involved until early 42. Because it's like, yeah, 1941 Pearl Harbor happened, but it was December, and so the U.S. realistically wouldn't have been ready until probably wasn't ready until 1942. Now that's not to say they may have had skirmishes in late December, especially trying to get Japanese occupiers out of the U.S. territory, at least the U.S. territory close enough to Pearl Harbor. Like I know some uh like Hawaiian outposts were taken by the Japanese, and you know those would have to be taken back pretty soon. Like I said, maybe before the new year, but the new year wouldn't be when a lot of this was starting to marinate into the conflict we know it as.
To the Gestapo headquarters, comes to the Rochefoucauld household and says, "Hey, I've delivered the mail to this police department, and they got a letter. I steamed it open so I could read it to see who they're going to arrest next. And Robert Le Rochefoucauld has been reported as being a communist sympathizer, and they're going to come arrest him." Now, that's not true, but doesn't really matter. The Gestapo thinks it is, and they're going to come arrest him. So, at the age of 19, he has to flee. So, he gets 2 fake IDs with 2 different names and then alternates which ID he's giving every time he has to show his papers. That way, it makes it harder for him to track. He makes his way all the way to Spain, where he links up with the
Very smart. Yeah, that is a very smart tactic because it's like, wait, which ID here? Now, of course, 2 IDs. Once they figure out, oh, he's just swapping 2 IDs, becomes a lot easier to track. It's like, okay, so Robert is going under Charles here, and then Guillaume here, and then back to Charles right here. Maybe Guillaume a couple more times before going back to Charles. You know, so it's not a foolproof thing, but if they're somewhat slow with it, there's going to be some confusion with 2 IDs because they're going to be like, which one's which? We need to go and transition between them, all that.
distance, and he tells them that he's actually a French Canadian and he's trying to make his way back to Great Britain so he can keep fighting against the Nazis. Which is brilliant because remember, he's trilingual. He speaks French, English, and Spanish, and
Mm,
he's going to explain his accent to anybody that wonders. So they buy
right.
the story. He gets linked up with 2 downed British pilots, and they end up smuggling them back into Great Britain. And he's hoping that once he gets there, he's going to be able to link up with Charles de Gaulle and help fight for France.
Okay, yeah.
Once he makes his way to Great Britain, he is interrogated by British intelligence pretty rigorously, which is standard procedure, making sure he's not a spy or a
Right. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure these guys are the guys they say they are because uh basically you don't want to, because honestly, like one good double agent would ruin the whole thing. Like he covered the Spanish guy who became a British double agent in World War II, and I think he even got certain uh commemorations from like Hitler himself. Uh and he just set up a whole fake spy network in Britain that destroyed that crippled any chance the Germans had, because he would be saying one thing, but then something else would happen. You'd be like, oh yeah, there's totally something going on in the English Channel when there was nothing going on. Or like, oh, this giant squad of British warships off of the coast of West Africa, and there's no ships near, like, along the whole west coast of the African continent, things like that. And when it was telling something truthful, it would be late.
agent or something like that. And they don't torture him, but what they do is they sit him in a room, they interview him, they ask him all their questions. He lies, he says he's 21, he says he's French Canadian, trying to get his way into Great Britain. And they end
Right.
up sitting him in this room for hours on end. They feed him a bunch of tea and then refuse to let him go to the bathroom. And then they go in after hours and interview him again to see if having a full bladder and really having to take a piss is going to change his answer or make him alter his story in any way, which will reveal that he's up to something.
Interesting tactic. Um, yeah, that's an interesting way to get someone to, you know, answer questions. Like, that is a very peculiar way of interrogation.
At which point, he basically just comes clean, tells the whole truth. He's 19, his name's Robert Rochefoucauld, and one of the interviewers recognizes his name as French nobility. At which point, nepotism kicks in. They're like, oh, French nobility is not going to be a spy. Cool. We're going to send in a guy that'll talk to you if you really want to go fight the Germans. And they
So, yeah, if he was not nobility, they would be a lot more wary of him. But, yeah, I guess, you know, social class wins, I guess, especially in, you know, Britain, who has a stable noble class. Like I said, France, it's kind of wary in that regard.
send in a guy by the name of P.K. Wicks, and he's an officer in the British SOE, the Special Operations Executive, that Winston Churchill created to, quote, set Europe ablaze. He also gave them the name the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Basically, these guys are the inspiration for 007. P.K. Wicks comes to him. He's like, hey, you're French nobility. We want you. If you'll have you, here's the thing. You got to pass this super rigorous training. But if you pass, we'll jump your ass back into France and you can take the fight to the Germans. Robert is immediately interested.
Solid.
He really wants to fight the Germans, but he still wants to talk to General de Gaulle first to figure out if there's something more he could be doing. So P.K. Wicks organizes a meeting between Robert Rochefoucauld and General de Gaulle. They have a meeting. We don't really know what's said, but when he comes out of the meeting, he agrees that he's going to try to be part of the British SOE. From here, they ship him off to training. In the first 3 weeks, his basic training is basically one giant smoke session, running, push-ups, beating these guys up, making them swim when they're tired, making them cold, making them hot, trying to...
Very important things to do because, yeah, when you're in a combat situation, it's not pretty. You're going to be under a lot of stress and a lot of grueling environmental challenges, such as heat, such as, you know, dehydrations, some sort of starvation even. You're not going to be able to eat, drink, sleep as regularly. So, and this is why these kinds of drills are so important, because you don't want soldiers who are unprepared for the stresses of war.
weed out all the weak people. Robert makes it through. After that, potential SOE operatives are sorted into 3 different categories. You've got your general spies, your communication experts, and your saboteurs, your demolition men.
What makes me a good demo man? If I were a bad demo man, I wouldn't be sitting here discussing it with you now, would I?
From here, he learns everything about sabotage. He not only learns how to make bombs, but more importantly, how to utilize those.
EF2, yeah, I haven't played that. Actually, I've dabbled in it. I'm not too impressed by it. But, yeah, it's not my thing, I guess.
Bombs to be most effective. He learns where to put them on a bridge to destabilize the entire structure. If he's going to take out a factory, he learns how to identify the most important components of the factory to take that factory out of commission for as long as possible. He learns that you shouldn't just attack power lines, you should attack the transformers that feed them, because that's what's going to take longer to replace. He learns...
Yeah, like, simple wire, easy enough, but a whole thing with a lot of components, you know, that's going to be a lot more difficult. Now, something as a relatively simple and routine as a transformer, maybe not, because I imagine it haven't, like, you know, if you're going to replace the transformer, I'd imagine you'd get whole transformers pretty, like, if not already pre-assembled with the parts shipped together. So I don't know about that, but I'm not an electrician or anything. He is, but I'd assume that's what would happen.
that you shouldn't just target a railroad or a train, you should also take out all the cranes and heavy equipment that's going to be needed to clear that wreckage to repair it as well.
Right.
After that, he learns how to be...
Now that is going to be, yeah, just keep on padding out as much as you can the things you have to get fixed.
trooper, and then the real spy training starts.
You know what, sir? I can't say that I am shocked because I felt very good about this year's test.
The SOE brings in a guy by the name of Eric Sykes, who's regarded as like one of the best combat shooters in the world. He's going to teach these guys how to use guns in actual combat, not just go set out on a range and shoot at a static target. He's going to put them through full-on shoot house training, and he's going to learn from the best. After that,
Okay.
Eric Fairbairn, who's one of, if not the best hand-to-hand...
Wait, what was that?
After that, they bring
William.
Fair Baron, who's one of, if not the
Yeah, I've seen him make a mistake or two like that.
best hand-to-hand combat experts at this point in time in the entire world. This guy was former British military, and then after that went off and became a cop in Shanghai, which was one of the most violent cities in the world at this point in time. While he was there, he was jumped by a gang and stabbed 12 times.
Just a flesh wound.
Haha.
Somehow he managed to
Yeah, I've seen part of Monty Python. I'm personally not too impressed by it, but I don't know. Maybe because I'm just not into British humor like that.
survive, and then decided that shit's never gonna happen again, and decided he was gonna learn every single martial art that he could. This guy studied jujitsu, became a second-degree black belt in judo, studied boxing, kickboxing, savate, wrestling, knife fighting, and anything else he could get his hands on. While he was still being a cop in Shanghai, his official police record logs over 600 real-world fights, and he helped found the first ever SWAT team in world history. So between Sims and Fairbairn, they basically turn him into John Wick in a fighting system that they refer to as gutter fighting. From here, he has his final test, and the final test is they are going to yeet him out the back of a plane in a parachute with no map, no compass, no equipment, somewhere in the
A little
UK.
itch
And he has to
there.
make his way all the way back to SOE headquarters without being captured by the police. And they have notified the police that they need to track his ass down. Now, luckily,
Okay.
they're in Paris, so he has a teammate that's going to be able to help him out. Unfortunately, his teammate breaks his ankle as soon as he jumps out of the plane. So Robert is like, fuck it.
Not good.
Goes, steals a military truck, drives it back, picks up his teammate, and drives them straight back to SOE headquarters, and he's back the next day by like lunch, breaking the course record by a ridiculous amount of time. At which point the chain of command is like, that was super, super illegal, but also the exact kind of ungentlemanly shit we're looking for. You're in. Out of his class of 30 men, only 7 of them graduated, and he's one of them.
Right. Clearly.
All right, summer 19...
So if I understood that correctly, he stole. Let me go back there real quick.
And is like, that was
Let's see. So that was what?
somewhere in the UK.
Right.
Make his way all the way back to SOE headquarters without being captured by the police. And
Yeah.
they notified the police that they need to track his ass down. Now, luckily, they do it in Paris, so he has a teammate that's going to be able to help him out. Unfortunately, his teammate breaks his ankle as soon as he jumps out of the plane. So
Okay.
Robert's like, fuck it, we ball, goes, steals a military truck, drives it back, picks up his teammate, and drives them straight back to
Okay.
SOE
So yeah, he's solo military truck.
day by like lunch, breaking the course record by a ridiculous amount of time. At which
Right.
the chain of command is like, that was super, super illegal.
Yeah, but that's what you do in war, especially on enemy ground.
But also the exact kind of ungentlemanly shit we're looking for. You're in. Out of
Exactly. And yeah, because there's really no ethics to war, especially all out war like this, where the main thing is just do what you have to get the job done. Now, of course, you should be as morally justified as possible, but war itself, in my opinion, isn't morally justified, so you're going to have to. So you're already breaking a moral, so guess what's a few more?
his class of 30 men, only 7 of them graduated, and he's one of them.
Give it a lot of resistance.
Since Robert has left France, things have changed a lot. When he left, you had the German-occupied section of France, and then you had Free France or Vichy France, which was
Right.
still kind of under Germany's control.
Yeah.
They were putting on the illusion that France still kind of existed as its own sovereign nation.
Right.
That was a big part of the reason when Robert was in France that people weren't as willing to fight, because there was still technically France as a sovereign nation, so to speak. But by
Yeah.
the summer of 1943, that has changed as World War II is ramped up. The Nazis now occupy all of France. In addition to that, they are also forcing...
Keep in mind, that's officially, they had always occupied all of France. Vichy France was a front. This is totally not just more of Nazi Germany, essentially. This is definitely an independent country.
French people to work inside of factories, even sending some of them into Germany to work in their factories to aid with the war effort. Obviously, because of this, an enormous amount of the French population is pissed off, so that means that a bunch more of them are going to be willing to either A, help the resistance, or B, join the resistance themselves. The obvious
Right.
problem, they don't have guns and they don't know what they're doing, and that is where Robert comes in. British SOE is linked up with the French resistance and told them they are going to be airdropping in an expert, and he is going to come with a bunch of guns and plastic explosives that he's going to distribute out to the French resistance, and then he's going to provide training and help them go out and sabotage the Germans. June 1943, he boards a plane headed off towards Nazi-occupied France. He's going to get dropped off at a certain zone, and the French resistance is going to be there waiting for him. On the way there, the plane gets lit up by German anti-aircraft fire. Luckily,
Not good.
limp the plane to the right drop zone. Robert jumps out.
That is
throw
good.
out all the crates of guns and plastic explosives behind him, and then they take off. Robert never finds out what actually happened to that plane. So Robert hits the ground.
Limping. If they're lucky, they make it back. I wouldn't count on it myself, but I guess not impossible.
French resistance runs out. They meet up with them. He's like, hey, we got lit up by the Germans. The Germans know that we're doing something here. We got to get all this shit on the trucks and dip, which is exactly what they do. Now, initially,
Yeah.
Robert has some difficulties with the French resistance because they said that they were going to be parachuting in some badass expert, and then a 19-year-old kid shows up getting thrown out of a plane, and he's talking to a bunch of French resistance fighters that are, you know, normal dudes in their 20s, 30s, 40s,
Right.
50s, and now they're taking orders from some 19-year-old kid. But his skills spoke for themselves, and they eventually ended up having a huge amount of respect for him, and he gained a ton of notoriety throughout all of France. For about the next 5
Okay.
months, he trained dozens of French resistance fighters in how to be saboteurs, using guns, using plastic explosives, as well as carrying out sabotage missions himself. During this time, they took out a ton of rail lines, they took out a power plant, and they took out a repair yard for German heavy equipment. So things are going really well for about 5 months, but then obviously as the French resistance continues to get bigger and continues to get more effective, the Nazis are going to react, and they start sending
Yeah, and that's another thing is just bloat. The more there is to something, the easier it is to get people, individuals, like not punished, but like outed. And if there is a rival that can take advantage of that, they are going to do that.
in more secret police, and they actually have these secret police go in and start joining the French resistance so they can figure out who's who, and then they start arresting everybody. And by November of 1943,
Right.
it gets to the point that they are capturing a ton of people, so a lot of the French resistance fighters, Robert included, all just kind of have to lay low for a while. So he goes out in the country, finds an abandoned barn, and he's just living inside of this abandoned barn, trying to
Okay.
be unnoticed by absolutely everyone. Robert is especially scared of getting captured because by this point in the war, the Germans somehow have figured out that the British SOE, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, exists, and Hitler has signed the order that they are to be killed on sight. Now, technically, it is a war crime, but the Germans argued that because they were operating in civilian clothing in German-occupied territory, they were an illegal combatant, so they were allowed to kill.
I mean, yeah, they are technically an illegal combatant. I'm not sure if that justifies just killing them on the street, especially if they don't have any weapons on them.
On top of that, the Germans aren't super renowned for caring about war crimes in the first place.
That's also true. But like, you know, I'm trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm not sure if this would justify. I'm not just going to be like, Nazis, obviously they're unethical. I mean, obviously they are, but I'm not going to like just be like, oh well, they're Nazis, so of course they're going to make this a whole issue about war crimes. It's like, nah, take it back. We have to like analyze it a little more critically than just simply Nazis bad, because it's like, while that's true, if you keep it that simple, then you can justify the same exact thing happening on the other side, which again, the other side is wrong for doing it just as much.
So Robert is laying low inside of this abandoned barn.
Also, other things, other periods of time, even when it's your side doing it, you should look at it, be like, wait a minute, that's not right. Of course, at this time it's all at war, not many people are going to care. It's not like, you know, if the US did these tactics in Iraq or Afghanistan, where like it wasn't all at war, not many people were really affected by it, like Britain, France, and Germany were.
Out in the country for about a month. It's just long day after long day, waiting, and then one day on December 7th, 1943, a bunch of cop cars pull up to the barn. They go inside the barn, they arrest Robert. Robert tries to feed him a line of bullshit like, oh, I'm just, some homeless guy that's traveling. I got tired. I pulled over in this barn to take a nap. The Germans then search the barn, find a bunch of plastic explosives and submachine guns, and he's like, those aren't mine. Obviously.
Yeah, that's not going to work anymore.
This sort of thing ain't my bag, baby.
One book, Swedish-made penis enlarger pumps, and me, this sort of thing.
Huh.
Okay, well, I'm dead. I'm about to get shot in this barn right now because I'm British SOE. But
Right.
that's not what they do. They handcuff him, they throw him in a car, and they start taking him to prison. And the entire car ride there, he's like, why didn't they just kill me? What is gonna happen?
I'm intrigued by that too.
And then kill me.
Possibly.
He's like trying to figure out why they didn't kill him right there on the spot, like they had orders to do. And it dawns on him, they probably didn't do it because he speaks fluent French, doesn't have an accent, and the dude kind of looks French. His family's been there for 1,000 years. So
Right.
they didn't just instinctively think that he was British SOE.
Yeah, he's speaking perfect French with a perfect accent. They're like, oh, here's some French resistance fighter that isn't, that obviously is going to get punished, probably tortured, wouldn't put it past the Germans. That's like, yeah, that's definitely a probability, not just possibility, in fact. But just want to emphasize that. But yeah, so he will most likely get tortured, but at least he can live to, try to escape, as opposed to being a blatant, obvious British guy getting shot immediately.
Realizing this, when he gets to the prison for the first and only time during his operational career, he actually gives the Germans his real name because La Rochefoucauld, super French name that's well known, and then that's going to add to, oh, he's just French resistance, he's not British SOE. So
Right, that's going to, again, another thing to help him.
at least he won't get executed immediately. From here, he gets thrown in solitary confinement for a couple of days. Obviously, they're trying to soften him up before they interrogate him, but he's already been in solitary confinement for like the past month inside of a barn, so it doesn't really affect him.
Yeah. When you self-confine, forceful confinement's probably not going to be a particularly effective thing.
From here, they take him in, they interrogate him. It becomes pretty obvious to Robert that they think he's a communist, so he kind of like goes along with it, not by saying
Right.
that he is a communist, but by refusing to admit that he's a communist, trying to get the Germans to prove it, and then that way it kind of like gives them tunnel vision that they're trying to prove that this guy's a communist. Basically,
Very smart. If you can get them to focus on proving one thing, you distract them from having the ability to prove other things about you. Like, if, like for example, they have tunnel vision on him being a communist. They're not even going to think that he's possibly remotely working with the British. Maybe remotely, but not like to the degree he actually is, not even close. He's just some random resistance fighter, maybe getting some funding and training from the British, and that's about it.
he's doing anything and everything he can to not get identified as British SOE. After the initial interrogations, they throw him into a normal cell, and he has a cellmate with him, and within being in the room with the cellmate for like 20 minutes, the guy has an epileptic seizure, falls onto
Give me a second. Okay, I think I'm good. Let's move on.
the ground. Two guards rush in. They start freaking out. They don't know what to do. Robert's just kind of sitting on the bed watching this whole thing go down. The
Right.
two guards are helping the guy having the seizure. The door is wide open.
Okay.
It's like, huh. They end up taking the guy to the infirmary. Robert
Right, huh. Could totally leave right now.
never sees him again. From here, they start interrogating Robert every day for multiple hours a day. And when I say interrogating, I mean torturing. Now, we don't know.
Huh. I figured he would have taken that opportunity to be like, okay, I'm out.
Exactly what Robert himself was subjected to, but we do know the methods that were being used in this prison at this time period. Those included waterboarding, getting beaten with bats, having your testicles shocked, having these soldiers
Huh.
cut open and being forced to walk on salt, the pulling out
Ooh.
the pulling out of fingernails, and there's even a couple accounts of prisoners being forced or strapped down over a toilet that was full of starving rats. And this goes on for months. Robert never says shit, or at least never says anything true or that's actually helpful to the Nazis. He keeps
Okay.
getting back on his training. He keeps getting angry at the torturer. He's yelling at the guy. He's just making it not fun. You know what I mean? I've never tortured
Right.
anybody. Don't really want to. But I would imagine if you've tortured 100 people and they're all, you know, begging you to stop and crying and being sad, and you've got one guy that's yelling at you being a dick, it probably makes it a little bit less fun.
Right.
Those relics from the Fran's garage sale?
You know, I don't even think you want to be tortured.
I don't want to be
You're
tortured.
just like taking all
Right.
the fun out of it.
During this time period, the only good thing that happens is, for some reason, I have no idea why, the Germans are still allowing the prisoners to receive mail. And there's some
Okay.
inside the local community that is sending in care packages to just random people. And Robert keeps getting these care packages with like chocolate and food and bread and shit. And that's what keeps him going. Other than that,
Okay.
it's just day after day of getting tortured for hours.
That is an interesting tactic. Let the prisoners have pretty decent freedom. Yeah, the Germans were known for doing certain things like that. Was the castle, the Austrian castle, Itter, I think it was something like that, and yeah, it was basically a glorified prison for French upperclassmen. But yeah, other than that,
For months, December, January, February. By March, he's really starting to lose hope. He still has his cyanide pill hidden on him, and he's really starting to think about using it. And then on March 7th, he ends up getting pulled from his cell and sent into a tribunal, basically a kangaroo court, where he is going to go on trial
Okay.
for his crimes. So Robert finds out he's going on trial. He's like getting ready to argue, getting his story straight that he was just some random dude passing by. He had no idea that there were weapons inside the barn. He goes inside
Right.
his military tribunal, doesn't really even get to say anything. They're just like, yep, he is guilty, sentence him to death on the spot. They take him out, they load him in the back of a truck, and the truck takes off. So Robert is now
Not good yet.
moving down the road with a couple of other prisoners, a couple of other guards. He has no idea where they're going, but he knows what happens when they get there. They're going to kill him.
Right.
The Germans never figured out that he was SOE. They have no idea that he's been trained to, I don't know, kill people with his bare hands or any number of other things. So they decided
Okay.
that he was just some other French guy that they tortured for 4 months and is probably
Keep in mind, yeah, like I said, most French resistance probably weren't getting even near this level of training. So they're probably even going to have their guard down, in fact, to underestimating his ability, because they're not expecting him to get that high level of training.
broken, so they didn't bother to throw him in the truck with handcuffs, just like any other type of prisoner. So Robert hits
Right.
one of the guards and jumps out of the back of this moving truck, tucks and rolls, and takes off running as fast as he can. The other guard
Smart.
starts shooting at Robert, but only for a second, because after the first couple of bullets, which missed, the driver ends up slamming on the brakes because he hears gunfire, not knowing what's going on, ends up knocking the guard down, and it gives Robert enough time to make it to the corner.
Okay.
So he's not in their direct line of sight. From here, he just keeps running as fast as he can, taking every single corner, every back alley, trying to lose the Germans. After a couple miles, he hasn't heard the truck behind him in a while, and he's finally starting to think to himself, okay, cool, I managed to lose that truck. He turns
Right.
one more corner and runs smack dab into a Nazi headquarters building.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
At this point, he's like, fuck, what do I do? Because if I turn around and run the other way, that's going to look suspicious. There's guards in front of
I mean, how close is he to the headquarters?
this place.
You know?
Okay, I'm just going to play it cool. Stops running, starts walking, acting and pretending like he's supposed to be there. The
Right.
problem is, he's still wearing his clothes from 4 months ago when he was captured. He's got a beard. He looks like shit. He smells terrible. Whatever. We just got to roll with it. And he's
Yeah.
walking towards this Nazi headquarters building and goes to walk right past it. And right at the main gate, there's this big fancy Nazi limo with little Nazi swastika flags on the side. And he
Okay.
gets inside of it. There's keys inside the limo. Looks across the street. The driver is clearly waiting for somebody, smoking a cigarette right across from the limo, and he's like,
It's like,
fuck it, jumps in the limo, turns the key,
this'll work.
peels out.
Yeah.
The driver across the street pulls out a pistol, starts shooting at the car, doesn't do any real damage. He turns the corner, he's doing the same thing now, but
I can't imagine, especially for a car back then, which I believe would have thicker metal. They didn't crumple like modern cars do. Yeah, a pistol, a simple pistol, especially smaller calibers, probably isn't going to do much damage to that car.
inside of a car, just speeding off, taking corner after corner, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do. And then he sees a sign, Paris, that way. And he's like, okay, well, at least I know people in Paris.
Right. Yeah, but Paris is occupied, so I can't imagine it's going to be that easy.
So that's where he goes. Makes it to the outskirts of town, runs face first into a Nazi checkpoint. Again, can't
Right.
just, turn around and try a different route because that's going to look suspicious.
He doesn't know German either, so
This car that he just stole. So he just kind of joins the queue. He gets in line with all the other cars waiting to get their
try to fake it until you make it.
and he just waits and he waits and then he's up next. The Germans start walking up. There's no cars in front of him. He just floors it and drives through the barricade. The
Okay, that works too.
They hit the car a ton, but luckily they don't hit him. From here he drives the car.
This guy is lucky.
There's black smoke just coming out of the hood of this car, and he's like, okay, gotta ditch this thing. Finds an abandoned quarry, drives it into the abandoned quarry off of a cliff. It explodes, and now he's just out in the middle of nowhere with absolutely nothing. And from here,
An explosion would definitely make any forensic evidence that at this period could be extracted basically impossible to extract, because I mean, it's probably not in existence anymore from the explosion and fire.
he does the exact opposite of what you would expect him to do. He goes out into the woods, sleeps overnight, and then in the morning walks back into the same town that he just escaped. And his logic was the Germans last saw him heading as fast as he could out of town. They're probably not going to be looking for him too hard inside of town, so that's
That is actually a surprisingly logical conclusion. Like, go where they least expect you. Now, of course, like the whole saying of the murderer showing up to the crime scene kind of thing, you show up after the cops had already left. Like, so if it's safe to assume that the Germans had already left looking for him, then yes, he's probably going to be a lot safer than, if he sped out and then, 2, 3, 4 hours later showed back up. If it's like, I mean, slept overnight, so who knows, maybe it's as many as 24 to 48 hours afterwards. Probably a lot safer because the Germans at that point know not to look there, or at least think not to look there. They technically don't, because they don't know he's there.
exactly where he goes. And he decides he's going to go to the only place he knows where somebody kind of sort of might actually like him, and he goes to the return address that was on all those care packages that he got when he was in prison. It ends up being a Nazi-occupied hotel, and the guy that was sending all the packages is the guy that runs the hotel. So he goes there, that guy takes him in, gets him cleaned up, feeds him, lets him stay there for a couple of days while he gets him fake papers, and then he smuggles him out of town in the back of his truck in a giant pile of hay. And as they go
Okay.
to the Nazi checkpoint, the guy's like, oh, I'm just, I run the hotel in town. All the Nazis know who this guy is. He runs the Nazi hotel. He's like, I'm going
Right.
to feed all this hay to my sheep. The Germans go in, they stab the hay.
And that's another thing, is a lot of people in occupied countries weren't, cohabitating with the Germans because they liked them. They were cohabitating with them because they knew they could die if they disobeyed. This was very much a scare tactic that the Germans were pulling off.
Pile with bayonets, somehow missing La Rochefoucauld every single time, and then they make it out of town. They go to the next town over, go to the train station, uses his fake papers to get on a train headed towards Paris. Once he gets on the train, he's sitting in the back, and he can see Nazis coming through, inspecting everybody's papers, and he's like, oh, shit. And he's like, okay, well, I've got fake papers, but I don't know how good these fake papers actually are. They were good enough to get past the guy running the train station, but he's not a soldier clearly looking for somebody. And if these guys find out my papers are fake, it's game.
I wonder how they faked them back then, or how they verified them, because I guess they just had to trust signatures. Like the papers had to be signed, I guess, by like the local signatories or something like that. And as long as it looked identical, they were like good to go. Like because uh, I imagine like back then, maybe like a photo, because back then maybe a photo, date of birth, nationality, things like that. I'd imagine that's pretty much all you really had at the time. You didn't have the like, oh yeah, this is totally a real ID with all these punched things in here, or like higher, not hieroglyphic. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, but you didn't have these like fancy ways to check for legitimacy like you do now.
Over. So he gets up, goes to the bathroom, crams himself into the little cabinet underneath the sink, and stays there for the entire train ride back to Paris. Once he gets back to Paris, he goes to his aunt and his uncle's house. They're happy to see him. They feed him, they clothe him, they get him everything he needs for a couple of days. He links back up with the French resistance. They get a message over to British SOE, and a couple of days after that, he gets extracted via either submarine or gunboat, depending on which source you want to read. Makes it
Okay.
Britain, gets interrogated all over again, making sure that he didn't get turned into a double agent, and from there he gets to spend some time recovering from getting tortured and starved for 4 months straight.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be good on your body.
Before he's recovered, things are starting to ramp up for D-Day, and he volunteers to jump back into France to help set the stage for D-Day. Same thing happens all over again. This
Okay.
time he jumps into Britannia right along the Atlantic coast, and he just goes in, meets up with all the resistance, starts training as many guys as
Okay, yeah, so this is a very critical point. D-Day, better send plenty of regular paratroopers, army paratroopers in. Of course, a lot of army and marines are going to storm the actual beaches, naval support, all that. So yeah, I'm not really too versed on the French Resistance's job, but once D-Day is successful, he'll actually have somewhere to fall back for a period before like going back into like a more active part of the war, possibly. I shouldn't say probably. It's probably going to be a relatively safer position to be in after D-Day is successful, of course. Not knowing that yet, but still.
he can, distributes all the supplies that he has, and goes out on missions, sabotaging rail lines, electrical plants, everything and anything that he can find to slow the Germans down for when D-Day comes. And again,
Okay.
the same exact thing happens. He's there for like 2-3 months, and then the Germans start realizing that the French resistance has suddenly gotten way more effective, so they start sending in a bunch of more people to break up the French resistance, and he's like, I'm not getting fucking captured again. I've made it this far without getting captured. I did a bunch of damage. He calls in, gets extracted, makes his way back to Great Britain.
Okay.
All right, April 29th, 1944, the British launch a massive bombing campaign on a French munitions factory that is building ammo for the Nazis, and they bomb the holy hell out of it, but it's only
Okay.
for about a week before they start producing ammunition again.
That's interesting.
So like, okay, a couple of options. We could bomb it again. I mean, bombs are effective, but they're not like pinpoint accurate. We're not going to be able to go in there, find out where the most
I guess if you're not using pinpoint accurate bombs, it's going to be a little easier for them to restart manufacturing, as the damage is probably going to be a lot more superficial as if you just walked in, put a bomb in, put like a huge bomb in the middle of the building left, and it blew up the entire place.
important parts of this factory are and target those specifically. We're just kind of like trying to blow the whole thing to hell. But the downside
Right.
is it's really risky. You're putting all the planes, all the soldiers' lives at
Yeah.
risk. It's a big deal. So we could also just have a saboteur go in there, pinpoint a couple of things, and take this factory out of commission. And that's what they decide to do. They call up Rochefoucauld. He jumps back into France, and now he is tasked with taking out this munitions plant. Only problem, it's not the French resistance waiting for him at the drop zone. Somehow, it's the Germans. They ambush him and capture him almost immediately.
Ooh.
truck, take him to some house. They start interrogating him. After a little while, he hears a bunch of trucks pull up outside, and he's like, oh, great, the Nazis are here to take me to the real prison where I'm going to get tortured all over again. And then the whole house just starts getting lit up with machine gun fire. He hits the deck, dudes
Smart.
come in with guns, kill all the Germans. It was the French resistance that was supposed to meet him there originally. They went out there, got the guns, came back for him, and then killed all the Nazis. At which point he's like, great, perfect, wonderful. Okay, now
Great
back to the
job.
munitions plant. He links up with the resistance. They start talking it. They case the place. This munitions plant is absolutely massive. Every single worker that goes in there has their papers checked going in and coming out every single day. This is not going to be easy. He has to
Right.
figure out how to get fake papers for this plant. He has to figure out how he's going to smuggle in all the explosives, and he's going to have to figure out how he's going to get out once the explosives go off. So they
Yeah.
go out, they end up finding a
Very
bunch of
logistical thing.
for this factory and convince them to help him. They use those guys as actual IDs to make fake IDs for Robert and like 4 other resistance fighters. Then, using Robert's knowledge of how to sabotage stuff and the maintenance guy's knowledge of how the factory actually works and what's important, they come together and figure out which targets they're going to hit, mainly water mains and electrical rooms. Then they got to figure
Okay.
out how they're going to get the explosives inside the factory. So they hollow out their shoes and they're going to smuggle explosives in their shoes. So they load their shoes up with explosives.
Not very roomy places, and hopefully they're using stable explosives that won't detonate just because the pressure of their shoes were off. Was off a little, because that would not be a good time for these men's feet and probably their entire bodies.
Explosives. Next day, they show up to work. They all kind of stagger throughout this line. And like I said, this factory is huge. There's over 5,000 employees, right? And there's only like one checkpoint. So the dude that's checking papers is not like heavily scrutinizing. He's like,
Okay.
go, good.
That's good.
Go. It's not real in depth. Robert didn't realize that. He gets to walk right through. They get inside. They actually go to work. They work a full shift. At some point during the day, they go to the bathroom, hollow out their shoes, get all the explosives out of it, and then go stash it somewhere inside the place. And then
Okay.
they're going to come back and do it all over again. After that, they finish working their shift, quit. Time,
Okay, so yeah, I was wondering, it's like these, because I'm like thinking, oh, they're putting the explosives in their shoes. These must be very potent explosives, but it sounds like this is going to be like a thing going on throughout the a period of time. Also, this is more risky because it's like if like some legitimate maintenance worker something finds these explosives and reports them, it's like now you're also going to get a lot more scrutiny letting these people in. It's going to be a much higher alert workplace.
They all go home. They go back to the hideout. They have a big party because the plan is working. But Robert is like, okay, these guys aren't checking us that heavily, and I want to hurry this shit up and blow up this munition plant.
Right.
Every day we're making more ammo. You know, we need to stop that. That's the whole point of the mission. So he needs to figure out how to get more explosives in every single day because at this rate, it's going to take forever.
Right.
Because the only thing you're really allowed to bring into this factory is your lunch. So we need to figure out how to get more plastic explosives inside of our lunch boxes. It's literally the
Okay.
Johnny Cash song where he steals a Cadillac one piece at a time and it didn't cost him a dime, except now Robert is smuggling in plastic explosives to blow up the entire factory.
So yeah, the best way to do this obviously would be just not to have lunch. I'm not sure if that would raise alarm. Like, why aren't you guys eating? Like, why do you bring a lunchbox in, lunch pail, whatever you want to call it, in and not eat from it? But I mean, that's probably what they have to do just to get the right amount of explosives in, the most expedient amount.
What he does is he goes down to the grocery store, buys a baguette, a loaf of bread, cuts the end off, gets a spoon, hollows out the entire
Okay.
loaf of bread, and just ass packs this baguette full of C4. Go back to work the next day, got some papers, looks in the lunchbox. Oh shit, he's got a baguette. This is France. That's normal. Go ahead and go right in.
Okay.
Another guy's also bringing a fucking loaf of C4. After 7 days, they smuggle in 40 pounds of C4.
Ooh.
After that, we're ready to blow up this plant. So here's
Right.
the plan. Everybody's
That's
gonna work as
good
one.
amount.
We're going to bring even more C4, and then at the end of the day, Factory closes at 7 o'clock. At 6:30, Robert's going to slip away. He's going to go out to the fuel warehouse, and he's going to rig up the fuel warehouse to explode with a massive chunk of C4, and it's going to be on a 1-hour time delay. Then Robert's
Okay.
going to hide till 7 o'clock when everybody else, including the other 4 resistance guys, are all going to leave, and Robert's going to run around the factory. He's got 30 minutes to place all the rest of his charges. He's going to blow up the water main, the main power lines, and all the railroads coming in and out of the factory. The 4 resistance guys that already left are going to grab their bikes and Robert's bike, and they're going to pedal around the backside of the factory and wait by the 18-foot high wall on the outside with a rope. Then after
Okay.
he places his charges, he's going to jump out of a window, run across the courtyard at the wall, yell over to him. They're going to throw the rope over. He's going to scale the wall, and they're going to pedal off on bikes, which is exactly what happens. They make it about 4 blocks away from the factory before
Right.
there's a massive chain of explosions, and then they make it back to the safe house, have a humongous party, and get completely shit-faced. From here, Robert radios over to
Not sure if that's a good thing. Because when you're drunk, there are a lot of stupid things that you can do or that can happen that risk certain consequences.
British SOE, says mission successful. They radio back a single word: congratulations. That munitions factory was then out of commission for 15 days straight, and it's unclear how effective they were after they did start manufacturing more stuff at the location. It was only out of commission for
Okay.
2 weeks. I don't know why you're making such a big deal about it. Like, that's a huge deal.
I mean, at this stage of the war, there's a lot of movement, so yeah, I could see how that's a big deal. You know, like at this stage, you know, you got a good advancement going on in France. The Germans are going to attempt the Battle of the Bulge in a last-ditch effort to take back the lost territory. That's going to happen very quickly, and it is going to be suppressed very quickly. So yeah, at this stage, things are starting to really pick up momentum.
Okay, first of all, when you're playing Who's Got More Bullets with America and your factory goes down for 2 weeks straight, it's a fucking problem, okay?
Right.
Second of all, a British Lancaster bombing formation only managed to put this factory out of commission for 7 days, and Robert Le Rochefoucauld went in there with a loaf of bread and did twice as much damage, okay?
Yeah.
He's gangster as fuck. Sorry, anyways, from here, Robert's just pretty much waiting to get extracted. He needs to get the orders of when and where to meet for his extraction, so he's hanging out at the safe house for a couple of days. The orders finally come down. Hey, tomorrow night we need you to meet us in this next town over at this location. So he spends the next day memorizing the exact route he's going to take, and he's going to ride his bike there at night in pitch darkness. So he wants to memorize the route so he knows every little curve of the road so he can ride there in the dark.
Okay.
What he does, starts riding his bike. It's pitch blackout, can't really see shit. He hears a car coming up behind him, jumps in the ditch, waits for the car to pass by, comes back out, makes it a couple more miles. Another car coming, jumps in the ditch, hides, waits for the car to pass by, comes back out, riding his bike in the dark, can't see anything, and then all of a sudden he just runs into something. And it's a German checkpoint. He literally rode right into it because, well, that wasn't on the map. And now the Germans
Okay.
are at gunpoint, and there's a curfew, and he's not supposed to be out at this hour, so they start asking him questions. They're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, and here is where being in the military from the age of 19 really shoots him in the foot. Okay, you gotta
Right.
realize Robert is like 21 years old right now, but he's had a really weird life between the ages of 16 and 21. Everything after the age of 16 has been like building up to do 007 type shit. So in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, socially speaking, he's still a 16-year-old. So when he's asked, what are you doing out past curfew? The 16-year-old social skills kick in, and he's like, I was out in the woods making love to my girlfriend.
Okay. Still believable at this age. It's like, you know, like not that much of an adult. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay.
Okay, now for a 16-year-old boy making out with his girlfriend in the woods, great excuse. Highly probable, definitely what's going
Right.
on. For a 21-year-old man that just got done working at a factory, not a great excuse. German guard says, and I quote, why don't you fuck your girlfriend at home? To which Robert is like, From here, they take him to Fort Duas prison, throw him in a cell. He's informed that he's going to start getting interrogated in 2 days when the head of secret police gets back in, and that guy's name is Friedrich Wilhelm Doza. Robert knows the name because Doza is like one of the best secret police the German has, and he has been responsible for arresting hundreds of French resistance guys. He's always infiltrating the French resistance and breaking them up and arresting everybody. So at this point, Robert's kind of freaking out, like, okay, I might have met my match with this guy. I can't let him know what my real name is. If I give him my real name, he's going to track down my family. He's going to hurt them next. And for the next 2 days,
Okay.
he considers taking his own cyanide pill just so he doesn't accidentally give up his name to protect his family. And really, over
Right.
this time figures, you know what? I might as well try to escape. If I end up getting killed or if I end up getting recaptured, I'll take the cyanide pill or they'll kill me when I'm trying to escape. I'm dead either way. I might as well
Yeah.
give it a shot. And then he has an idea. He remembers back to the last time he was held in a prison, and that one guy had an epileptic seizure, and the guards ran in and started helping him. Now, he's in a cell.
Thinking. Yeah, that's actually a good thing to do. They're going to medically. I can't imagine he could, just fake death. Because, like, they're going to be like, he's warm, he still has a pulse, he can be saved, so on and so forth. At best, maybe they don't care and just throw him in a ditch to let him die because it's like he's on the verge of death or something.
By himself. So he hangs around, he waits till the guard is walking by, and then he has an epileptic seizure. The guard unlocks the door, runs in to help, and then Robert grabs him, throws him on the ground, snaps his neck, and kills him. And here
Okay.
it's kind of like, I just killed a guy.
You should find yourself a safe.
Yeah, he hasn't directly killed anyone yet. Like, this is the first time he has.
House or a relative close by. Lay low for a while because you're probably wanted for murder.
And then he kind of like snaps out of it, like move fast, looks for the keys to get off of like the block that he's on. He has keys to his cell, but he doesn't have keys to get out of the section of the prison that he's in, and neither does the guard. So he's like, shit. What do I do now? So he decides that guard's roughly the same size as me, so he strips the guard down and puts on the Nazi uniform. So now
Okay.
he's dressed like a Nazi, but he also has a pistol. So things are looking
Better.
Okay, how do I get
Certainly better.
cell block? And there's, just a bunch of cells, and then there's like the room that the guards are always going into. So he's like, maybe the keys are in there. So he walks in his Nazi uniform over to the guards' lounge or whatever you want to call it, opens the
Okay.
door. There's two guards in there sleeping. So he kind of starts shuffling around, looking for keys to get off this cell block. The guards wake up, shoots both the guards, finds the keys, gets off the cell block, walks out the front door of the prison, and goes back to the safe house, does not get caught. From here, he
Okay.
goes to the safe house for like 3 days straight. The Nazis know what he looks like. They have like a hand drawing of his face. They've got wanted posters all over town. They are looking for this guy. There's no way
Ooh.
he's gonna be able to get out of this safe house and get to like the next safe house to the next safe house to get to where he can get extracted.
Right.
The Nazis are looking at every single checkpoint. They are gonna catch him. After about 3 to 4 days of hanging out at the safe house, waiting for everything to cool down, it's not cooling down. Nobody can come up with a plan on how to smuggle his ass out of here. And then the owner of the safe house is like, I mean, I do have one idea. My sister's a nun and she's a little bit husky. So I mean that is an option.
Okay.
Could you make me a woman?
Okay, hard the freshly shaven face is now walking down the streets of France in a nun outfit, literally waving at Nazis as he walks by, and nobody suspects a thing. He makes it all the way to the next safe house, goes up, knocks on the door. A woman answers the door. He knows he's looking for a guy. I don't know his name. Mike, Rob, whatever. So, in a female voice, still trying to, put up the impression that he's a nun, not knowing if this woman's to be trusted or not, he asks if, oh, is Mike here? And she's like, yeah, I'll go get him. Mike comes to the door, and Mike is like, sees this nun in front of him, and he's like immediately like upset and distraught, and he's like, oh no. Sister, are you going to tell me that he passed away or he was captured? Thinking, because he's been waiting Rochefoucauld for 4 days. He was supposed to be here 4 days ago. So he's thinking in his head, this nun is coming to inform him that his friend that he's been waiting for has passed away or whatever. At which point, Robert, using his man voice, is like, bro, I'm right here.
Can I help you, man?
Oh, sorry I'm late. After all those scotches, I had to piss like a racehorse.
He goes inside the safe house, tells him the story. The woman that answered the door is actually this guy's wife, tells her the story. They all have a good laugh. From here on out, he's hanging out at this safe house.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
So he's hanging out at the safe house for a couple days, and then a couple more days, and then a couple more days, and the orders for him to get extracted are just not coming through. There's no plans, there's no communication, just nothing. And eventually, the owner of the safe house is like, okay, we got to get you somewhere that isn't here because if the Germans come, you're going to get all of us killed. So he ends up organizing for him to go out into the boonies, into this lumberjack camp out in the woods, and he's just going to work there as a lumberjack until the orders come through. So that's what he does.
Okay.
He goes out to this lumberjack camp, and he's being a lumberjack, cutting down trees for weeks, and then weeks turn into a month, and then a month turns into another month, and he's finally like, what the fuck is going on? There's a war going on. I'm supposed to be, doing stuff. I'm out here cutting trees. And he's like, fuck it. I'm just going to go back, rejoin the resistance, and go rogue. So that's what he does. One day he just walks out of the lumberjack camp, goes back into town, links back up with the French resistance group that helped
Okay.
sabotage the ammunition factory, and just goes absolutely absolutely hand.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. People who are fighters, like I've seen Fat Electrician's videos before. I know, like, these guys who are fighters do not like just sitting around. Like, they will go through certain extremes to make sure they go see the action. They will vehemently break orders, just be like, no, I'm going out, I'm going to see the action, something like that, you know? So, yeah, that's definitely not foreign to Fat Electrician videos.
Now, we don't have great documentation on what exactly he was doing, but it's pretty safe to assume he was going out training more resistance guys and then leading missions to sabotage stuff that he thought would piss off the Nazis. And like I said, while we don't know exactly what he specifically was up to, we do know that in his general area around this general time period, there was over 100 Nazi rail lines that got sabotaged. We do have one specific story that he took the time to write about, though, during this time period. He was working with the French resistance and they were setting up an ambush for some German soldiers, and during this ambush, there was some type of building that they were in, either like an abandoned factory or a factory, whatever it was. He says he walks
Okay.
into a room, he opens the door, and as he opens the door into this room, it's just a room with a desk in the middle, and straight across from his door was another door. And at the same moment that he walked through his door, a Nazi soldier walked through the other door straight across from him. He immediately
Ooh.
draws his pistol, starts firing at the German. The German draws his pistol, starts firing at him. They both mag dump each other, and both of them miss with every fucking shot.
Okay.
Robert and the Nazi are just looking at each other with empty pistols like,
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Like, what is the protocol here? Do I hurry up and try to reload faster than him and then shoot him and hopefully I hit him this time, even though
Right,
I
right.
hit the last 7 bullets, or do we just have a fist fight to the death? What's the plan? So
Okay.
Robert and this Nazi are both just kind of looking at each other, probably for like a split second, but I bet it felt like forever.
Right.
Both just like, and they both at the same time turn around and go out the door they came in and shut the door behind him. Never saw the guy again. So,
That's like some comedy movie level of like, just, we're going to go, leave, not do anything, you know? Uh, so yeah, that is definitely a funny thing that I would not expect. I'd expect one of those guys to do something other than just like, well, I don't know what to do now, you know? You think, okay, he's not firing, he's not firing. I guess, like, because you turn your back, you're obviously going to get shot kind of thing, but I assume they're like, well, we're in this tough position. Neither of us are going to get out here alive if we both don't just leave. So we don't know who it's going to be. I'm not trusting my reloading ability. You're not trusting yours. We're just out.
he goes rogue for a couple of months, has a bunch of missions, presumably does a bunch of stuff, trains a bunch of people, whatever, and then the entire landscape of the French resistance changes. Now, when
Okay.
we talk about the French resistance, a lot of people just assume that it's all the same thing. Like, there's just one organization, one big entity that is the French resistance.
Right.
Or the resistance.
And it's a resistance. There's no centralized command structure. I mean, I guess you could make that assumption with like, oh well, Britain's going in to help the French resistance and help them kind of organize and act as like a rebel organization kind of thing. But at the end of the day, resistance fighters are resistance fighters. There's always going to be people acting outside any formal capacity that exists and as a separate entity itself.
Not how it worked at all. There was a bunch of different factions of French resistance,
Right.
and they were all doing different things, and some of them did not like each other and would work against each other. It was kind of a crapshoot. So you had factions of resistance that were loyal to what France used to be. They're
Right.
essentially loyal to General de Gaulle. They're loyal to Free France. They want things to go back to how they were before the Germans showed up. You also have factions that are communist that want France to get taken
Yeah.
over by communists.
And that's another thing is there's a lot of ideologies going around. There's Republican, and there's like Democratic / Republican people being like, oh, we want the Republic or a democracy. And then you have communists being like, we want communism. And yeah, then you'll get people who are more sympathetic towards the Nazis. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting little cabal here.
become a communist nation, and then you have other factions that are like comprised of almost exclusively Jewish people or whatever. So
Right.
all these different factions with different motives, and they're not always working together. Well, by this point in time, D-Day has happened. Allied forces are here. They're liberating France, and because of this,
Yeah.
General de Gaulle comes back, and he basically puts an end to all the resistance that is loyal to him. They're like, okay, we don't need the French resistance anymore. If you want to fight for France, you can quit being part of the resistance, and you can just come join the Free French Army, and you can be directly underneath me. And because obviously La Rochefoucauld is loyal to General de Gaulle, that's exactly what he does. So La Rochefoucauld
Okay.
joins the French Army, and the French Army is like, okay, we've got this
Right.
guy that's basically
Yeah, that is definitely yeah, so yeah, Charles de Gaulle comes in, takes over. He's certainly going to uh be interested. So yeah.
Bond, he's been doing 007 shit for years. We should probably just give him some orders and cut him loose, or put him in charge of some people and get him into the action, right? Obvious thing to do. So naturally, that's what they don't do, because the military is going to military, and they decide that they're going to send him to officer school in the middle of World War II. So they pull him out,
Okay.
send him to officer training. So
Yeah,
hey,
impractical.
most of his time, he's 21 years
He already knows what he's doing, so yeah, it's going to be very impractical for him.
old. He's showing up to these officer training classes, getting taught by people that know less about what's going on than he does. They're less capable than he is, but he's, learning from them. So he's basically just shows up, jumps through all the hoops, graduates at the top of his class, and then he goes and joins the French army, and he gets assigned to a commando unit because, well, at least that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, by this point in the war, Germany is pretty much pulled out of France. The Allies are there. They're retaking France. But there's a couple of locations where they left a bunch of soldiers behind, and they were going to try to hold them, mainly submarine bases on the Atlantic coast. The one that we're going to be talking about today is right outside of Bordeaux. These German submarine bases were basically impenetrable. They had bunkers, pillboxes, casemates, hundreds of thousands of mines around them, and then the concrete was so thick they were basically immune to Allied bombing. And Germany
Okay.
wanted to keep them running as long as possible because they wanted the U-boats out in the Atlantic harassing Allied shipping, which is going to hamper the entire war effort and make it harder for the Allies to push into Germany. So Robert and the commando unit that he's in have been tasked with taking out this massive sub-base right outside of Bordeaux. And this is called Operation Venerable, and it happens on April 14th, 1945. Now, like I said, these submarine bases are basically impervious to Allied bombings, or at least conventional Allied bombing. So the Allied forces decided they were going to use a different type of bomb. Napalm, jungle jelly, sweet, sticky fire. If we can
Wait, napalm in World War II?
blow you up, we're just going to slow roast you alive, was basically the plan. So they go in, all the commando troops get ready, they get staged, they napalm bomb the holy hell out of this place, and then they're getting ready to launch their attack. They send scouts forward, scouts come back, and the section that the commando unit that Robert is supposed to attack didn't really get hit by napalm. Okay, the problem, this section also has a massive casemate with a humongous gun, like the big tank turret inside the concrete right there, and it's completely unscathed. And if that casemate stays intact and they launch this attack, that casemate is going to take out all the tanks, and then once the tanks are out of play, they're not going to be able to provide cover for all the ground troops, and the ground troops are going to get absolutely mopped by the machine gun bunkers, and it's just going to be one giant meat grinder. So the captain
Okay.
of this commando unit calls his officers in, Lieutenant La Rochefoucauld included, trying to come up with a plan. To which Robert, hearing the problem, is like, oh, you have a very particular piece of equipment that you need eliminated that's very hard to get to, and you need it done quick, easy, and in a hurry.
He knows that.
I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Right.
The captain is hesitant. He knows about La Rochefoucauld's background, but he's still like, how is one dude going to go in there and take out this massive casemate by himself? I don't know if it's worth it. To which La Rochefoucauld is basically like, look, we're going to get slaughtered tomorrow anyways. If I take me and like 3 other dudes with me and we end up dying on this mission and we fail, is us being at the battlefield tomorrow going to make the difference on us getting slaughtered now or then? Like, you might as well let me throw the
Right.
Hail Mary. And
Yeah.
the captain is like, you know what? You're right.
Fair enough.
What do you need? To which Robert is like, okay, here's what I need. I need a rubber boat. I need need some volunteers, and I need a loaf of bread. I mean, a bunch of plastic explosives. That night, they take the rubber boat, they paddle around the backside of this submarine base with nothing but a single flashlight to light their way. Takes them about 2
Okay.
hours to get there. They crawl up the beach. They make it to this massive wall around this submarine base. At this point, it's starting to rain, which is actually a good thing because that's going to drown out any little bit of noise that they make. So they get up to this wall. Here's the plan.
Right.
Robert's going to scale the wall, does that. Now, there's the wall to the submarine base, then there's like a courtyard, and then there's the big bunker with the casemate in it. And in between the wall and this casemate bunker is cobra netting, that camouflage netting that's kind of like spanned between the two, so aerial reconnaissance can't see what's going on inside that courtyard. Now, Robert, sitting up on this wall, can see that there's a single German guard patrolling this courtyard, just going around in circles all night long. So he takes out his knife, cuts a man-sized hole in this cobra netting right where he's at, and he just waits till the guard is reasonably close to that spot, jumps through the hole, lands on top of the guard, slits his throat, then leans him up against the wall and tries to make it look like he's sleeping.
Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
From here, his guys stick explosives down to him. He sneaks over to the casemate, places them where he thinks they need to be to cause the maximum amount of damage, rigs it up to explode in 7 minutes, runs back to the wall, they drop a rope down to him, he climbs up, they get back in the boat, they dip. While they're making their way back in their little rubber boat, massive explosion goes off. Hopefully he did enough damage to take the casemate out for the massive assault tomorrow. Tomorrow rolls around, they launch this massive assault. The casemate never fires a single round. Whatever happened, he apparently was able to disable it enough that they weren't able to use it. Unfortunately, during the assault, which he also partook in, somebody stepped on a landmine. That landmine exploded, and a piece of shrapnel shredded through his leg. He ends up getting hospitalized, has to go through surgery, get a prosthetic kneecap, and by the time he's recovered, the war is over.
Ooh.
He was awarded the French Croix de Guerre as well as the Legion of Honor. Those are equivalent to like the Bronze Star with V device and the Medal of Honor. And then from the British, he was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal and the Distinguished Conduct Medal, which is equivalent to like the American Silver Star and the Distinguished Service Cross.
Okay.
The Distinguished Service Cross is second only to the Medal of Honor. So a bunch of high-ranking awards.
Right.
From here, he basically gets to live happily ever after, gets married, has 4 kids, becomes the mayor of his town for 30 years, and he even picks back up his family's noble title and becomes Count Robert de la Rochefoucauld.
They didn't come out and say he's a pimp, but I know a pimp when I see one.
Thank you for watching. Best way to support
Okay.
buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Yeah, good video. Yeah, let's see here. Good video. So yeah, that will be all. And let me just check. Okay, let's see. Let me think here. But yeah, that was a good video. I'm going to be ending stream here. Just let me do something right here. Okay. Let me just do some checks here. Okay. And so yeah, that will be all, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.